Bang for Buck PC Gamer.
Hey guys, it's Bang for Buck PC Gamer here. This is going to be part 2 of the Skylake build that I'm building for my brother. He's finally got around to getting all of the parts apart from his graphics card. So I'll quickly go through the parts he has. For the cooler, he has the Corsair H110 IGT, which is a 280mm all-in-one cooling system. For the SSD, he's got a Kingston HyperX Savage 480GB hard drive. And for memory, he's got the G-Skill Trident Z 16GB DDR4 kit, which runs at 3200MHz. Processor is the i7 6700K, and the motherboard is the Asus Maximus 8 Formula. He also added a bit of customization with 3 Corsair AF 140mm red LED fans. These will all be done for airflow, and he also added 2 static pressure SV140 red LED fans from Corsair, which he's going to replace with the stock fans that you get with the Corsair H110 IGT, just to add a bit more bling to his case. As his case goes, it's a Phanteks Ethoo M Pro with a full acrylic window, and for the power supply he's using the Corsair AX 860. And last but not least, he's got a 2-meter multiple LED strip from Phanteks, just to add a bit more personal touch to his build. So quite an expensive build even without the graphics card. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly recap what I did in the first video, and then I'll move on to installing the new parts and hopefully getting the system powered on and showing you a good look at how it's going to look in all its glory. So just a quick recap on what I did in the first video. The first thing I did was change out the stock fans that came with the Phanteks Ethoo M Pro case. So there's one rear outtake exhaust 140mm fan, which I've changed to one of the Corsair AF 140 red LED fans, and there was also one intake 140mm fan, which I've installed both Corsair AF 140 red LED fans. So that's all 3 fans installed. I then installed the Corsair AX 860 power supply, and last but not least Asus Maximus 8 Formula motherboard. So all of that's been installed. I also added a fan controller. Can't remember the brand, but that's going to be controlling all 3 red LED airflow fans. So what I'm going to do now is install the Kingston HyperX Savage 480GB solid state hard drive. For anyone that's curious, it is a 560 megabyte read speed and 530 megabyte write speed, and that's going to be installed right here in the front so you can display through the window. So that's the front facing Kingston HyperX 480GB SSD mounted at the front of the case. I've also got a Samsung SSD mounted at the back. I'll show you that at the end when I finish putting in all the components, and you can have a look at the cable management as well. So what I want to do now is move on to fit in the Corsair H110 IGT CPU cooler. Here's a quick look at the Corsair H110 IGT before I've put it into the case. So 280mm radiator, usually comes with 2 140mm fans. These are the stock ones, but I'll be replacing those with the Corsair SB140 red LED static pressure fans that go, I think their max is 1400 RPM with 29 decibels as max volume, so they are pretty quiet compared to the stock fans. And that's going to be mounted to the top of the case. One of my favourite features about this case is it has this removable tray at the top of the case where you will mount your radiator. So instead of tilting your whole case or struggling with it, you can actually remove a few screws from the top of the case and it slides straight on out. So now I can mount the radiator and the fans really simply, and this is probably going to be the easiest installation I've ever done. So Phanteks have pretty much thought of everything when it comes to the ease of building with this case. So I finally got around to finishing mounting the Corsair H110 GT CPU cooler. As you can see, I've mounted it to the top, and all I've got to do now is install the CPU. So I've got the Intel i7 6700K, and I've got some Arctic MX2 thermal compound. I wanted the Arctic Silver, but it was out of stock, so this will have to do. So that was the easiest task of the whole build, fitting a CPU. All I've got to do now is add some thermal compound and finish mounting the Corsair H110i GT. So this is the Corsair H110 GT and the Intel i7 6700K finally installed and all ready to go. All I've got to do now is install the G-Skill Trident Z 16GB kit of DDR4 running at 3200 MHz, and then the PC should be in a position where it can post, but I've got a few more things to do before I do that. So this is the build finally pretty much complete. All I've got to do now is connect the LED strip, and obviously when my brother purchases his graphics card I'll have to install that as well, but apart from that it's pretty much done. So what I'm going to do is power it on and hopefully it boots up straight away. So yeah, it comes on, that's obviously a good sign. The fans are really blood red, but unfortunately this camera can't pick it up. I'm just going to take you round to the fan controller. So he's got a touchscreen fan controller, it looks pretty swift. That's probably the only part of this build that I envy. I've got a built-in fan controller on my Corsair Graphite 780, so I didn't need to buy one separately, but if I did buy one, I'll definitely buy something that looks like that, because that looks pretty trendy. So anyway, it turns on pretty well. All I've got to do now is connect it up and make sure it posts alright, and connect the LED strips. I'll just give you a quick look at the back of the case as well, so you can have a look at the cable management. Just going to quickly turn this off. And the good thing about the Corsair, the good thing about the Asus Maximus 8 formula is it has obviously its own RGB lighting, and it kind of has this strobe effect when it's on standby, so that's pretty cool. So for those who are interested, here's a quick look at my cable management. All cables are pretty much wrapped in the middle of the case, and there's also that rear 250GB Samsung SSD that I was talking about that's mounted at the back. It's not as visually pleasing as the Kingston HyperX, which is why this one's at the rear and not mounted at the front. But apart from that, it's a pretty clean job. All the cables are pretty much jumbled in one spot. Still room for two mechanical hard drives, but I don't think my brother's going to be using any of those. He wants to strictly go SSD. Okay guys, so the build is complete finally. Everything's been installed. All he's waiting on now is his graphics card, but that shouldn't stop me from powering this on for the first time and seeing if I get a post. So here goes the moment of truth. And there we have it. I haven't hooked up the keyboard or anything, so I can't get into the BIOS, but there we go. Intel i7 6700K, memory 16GB, and it's detected both hard drives, so that is success. Build is looking good. All I've got to do now is get it all configured up, and sometime later this week I will give you guys some benchmarks with the Intel i7 6700K using my GTX 1080 against the 5960X, so stay tuned for that. And that is pretty much it from me, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.